Okay, we are live streaming on Facebook. I want to welcome everyone to my May Leadership Dolce Sweet Morsels of Wisdom. I'm Joanne Newborn, certified lifestyle and leadership coach. I want to welcome there's my little additional voice going on there. So today I have my wonderful guest, Barry Forward, and I'll tell you a little bit about him in a minute. And we are going to be talking about how to kick imposter syndrome to the curb. I cannot believe how many people I have heard talking about imposter syndrome. So that was something that really interested me that I wanted to talk about. So Barry, let me tell you about Barry. He is a certified executive coach and professional certified coach. He's a PCC with the International Coaching Federation. I am an ACC, so I'm one level below him. So that's very exciting to have PCC here. And he's a former communications executive with an extensive background in working with senior leaders and professionals on their professional career mobility. And I assume by mobility, it's going up, mobile up. So Barry coaches, facilitates, and speaks on leadership trends, career change, mobility, and personal branding. Oh, I love personal branding. Barry operates Reboot Forward Coaching and Consulting, working for clients across the US, Canada, and Asia. And when he's not working, you're going to find him hiking across or cross-country skiing in the local mountains. So welcome, Barry. This is my second time having you on. It's so great to have you back. Welcome.
So great to be here, Joanne. Thanks again for inviting me on, and hopefully we can get to the root of this imposter syndrome discussion today.
Absolutely. So I did a little research before I really am interested in this topic because I can't believe how many of my clients say to me, I have imposter syndrome. I remember I was talking to a client, her company came to her. She was already a vice president, and they told her they wanted to promote her to a higher level role, to be a general manager. And she said, she confided in me and she said, I've got imposter syndrome. And she didn't even apply for the job. She goes, I think this other person on the team maybe should get it because he says he should get it and he's been here longer than me. And I was shocked. So I said, let me go do a little research on this. And I found out that 82% of people are suffering from this syndrome. So I'd love to know, what are you seeing out there with your clients in terms of how many people come to you and tell you that they have this going on?
Well, it's interesting because the word imposter syndrome, the imposter syndrome kind of denote this kind of psychological thing, that the analysis that a psychologist would go through. And I like to come at it as coach. That's not my area, right? But it's really about doubt and self-doubt and confidence that's rooted in this whole idea of imposter syndrome. We doubt ourselves, we doubt our abilities. It's a lot of just the words going around in our head, and we get into a role that we've assumed, and it's an exciting role, and then all these kind of things start to percolate in our mind that we're not good enough, or somehow the other people across the table are better than us. And it's that whole the number you meant, was it 82% or something like that? We're sitting around the boardroom, we're looking at each other, or we're in a meeting, and it's 82%. So do the math. How many of us are looking at the other people across the table going, oh no? And with the clients, it's absolutely that way. They come to me. Yes, they want to move up, they want to change, they want to grow in their career, but this doubt comes in, this somehow I'm going to be found out, which is the kind of the classic definition, right? They're going to find out that I don't have what it takes to do this job. And so when I heard your example there about, that's a classic symptom. One of the signs is we compare ourselves to others. We're looking around the room and we're going, he or she has so much more, she brings so much more. And the question is not that, it's what do we bring? What are we bringing to the table? And can we focus on that just all the good things that we have?
And the amazing thing about that was she hadn't applied. They came to her. And she was willing to even like give it up. And look, I can't say anything because I've been in imposter syndrome myself. So I get it. And what's interesting to me also is that when it was originally determined, these psychologists, Pauline, Rose, Clance, and Suzanne Imes, they developed the concept, and it was only about women, which I thought was very interesting. This was in 1978 in a study they did, but it's not just women, it's men too.
It's we, and I, as one of those men, absolutely, who suffered from this, who's been in boardrooms looking across the table going, how did I get here? How do I, and so the question really is, if it's so widespread like this is, like you're saying, what can we do to help ourselves? And I work with a lot of senior executives, and one of the things that I found is that they are looking for people to believe in themselves. They come to the people, and I'm talking senior leaders, people who are managing groups of direct reports. They want people to feel empowered. They want them in their mind to do this. So when we enter into those kind of scenarios where we think we're being judged, we're being compared against each other, what actually is on the other side of the table is probably something a little different than that. And so what can we do to say, I deserve to be here? That person probably is thinking good things about me and wants me to be my best. And best being my best, not their best, my best, me as who I am. Like you say, your example there, they tapped her on the shoulder and said, come on, which says to me a couple of things. One, the organization had a belief in her, right? The organization or company or the boss, whoever it was, had a belief in her. What happened there that we went to complete? No, that can't be true.
Yeah. So the burning question is, how do we make that shift, Barry, from thinking, I don't know if I'm qualified for this, or there's someone else better out there, to I'm going to bring my best, and my best is what people want.
I'm going to start with something really simple. And you and I have talked about it in the past before, is being grateful for what we have. So almost a gratitude list, which sounds really basic, but it's also the kind of key to self-awareness, is do an inventory of what you bring to the table. Focus on that, right? So talk about, so that your mind, and I talk our minds swirl around, start to make sure that those things that you bring, those good things, those things that you do well, that you focus on those as a first, as opposed to the things you don't do well. And everybody has edges in their careers where we can work on. Everybody. It's part of the opportunity that's a career. So we can grow in. If we don't know something, just learn about it. Most people aren't sitting there with 100% of every knowledge of everything that's going on. It's just not the case.
Yeah.
So I would say be grateful and take a list and inventory, and really, it's simple. Just write it out and remind yourself, this is what I have.
I love that. And I started that wins journal the last time we spoke. I don't use it as often as I should, but I'm going to go back to it again. But along the same lines, I spent 18 years in marketing, and I love the whole concept of branding ourselves, right? What's my brand? Because when I started to work with branding, I realized that people were taking the things that made them most unique and hiding them because they were trying to blend in and be like everyone else. And when they stepped into the things that made them unique, they stood out, and they became the ones that people were eyeballing because they were doing something differently, but not do something differently to do something differently. They would do something differently because they owned it. And that's actually who they were. And that fascinates me. And I think that's an anchor that people can use as well.
And what I would take that one step further. So now look at the people you admire in your work environment. And what are they doing? Just what you said. They're stepping in, they're owning their individuality, they're stepping into their abilities, what they do well. They are just doing the things that set them apart just by, if you just have to scan your environment, pick someone who you really admire at work, and she'll be there. She'll be doing all the things you just talked about.
I really like that too, because you can also say, I love the term modeling, right? And you can look at someone that you admire and you can model some of the things that you admire about them most. It doesn't mean stealing it. It doesn't mean copy them. It doesn't mean emulate. It means like, how do I fold that in just a little bit to what I'm doing so that it feels good to me?
And when you do that, if you can shift to taking some steps into that kind of new direction, if you will, being you at work. So you don't have to just go all in and be crazy and, this is who I am, right?
Right.
This is me on Friday night. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about assessing what you have, assessing your skills, assessing that abilities that you have, and then saying, hey, this is the one I'm not doing as much. I'm not speaking up at meetings. I'm not maybe connecting with the boss or as well or something. And just try a little bit of working that one and to see the results you get. Because again, it goes back to this. A lot of this is in our mind. We're limiting ourselves because of what we believe we're incapable of doing. We're being found out, or a fraud. We don't have the skill set. Test it a little bit. Go out there. Sure, you got to learn, because you got to learn. You got to be good at the work you do. There's no question. We're not saying this is all about just, hey, I feel like I'm good, so I can do anything. No, this is about having confidence in yourself to learn the things and be in that place, be at the table.
Yeah. There was something that you just said that made me think of something. About our minds. And sometimes people think, well, when I change, everyone that triggers imposter syndrome, right? If we're trying to change and make ourselves better and work on ourselves, that everyone's going to be like, they're going to see that I'm different. And oh my God, they're going to know like we're outed. And most people don't really notice. They'll just notice that there's something about you that's different that I really like, but I don't even know what it is. And they might even not know that, but the change that we're seeing is so much louder in our own mind than it really is out there. So don't be afraid to take some risks and try things like you were saying.
And what you said there is in the other people's minds. They're not even, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
People aren't thinking about us that way, as in detail. What they want us to do, again, back to my senior leaders, they want us to show up as us. We were hired for that reason. We got hired because we were who we are.
Yeah.
Not because we were somebody else. We already, sure, we might be put in challenging situations in the new role or the role that we have, but we were hired to be us. Now, can we embody that? Can we just flow with it? Learn to kind of really lean in to our own, I don't know, the skill set that you call it, what sets us apart. That takes some time. That takes some practice.
Yeah.
And be okay with yourself that you're just baby stepping it there.
That's important too. I'm not a big fan of like jumping out of airplanes and just go and, get over the fear and jump out of the airplane. I like baby steps. I like building muscles. I say that all the time. And also, like you said, I like to tell people too, you already have a seat at the table. It costs a lot of money to onboard someone and hire them and, all the other benefits that you get. So companies don't take hiring someone lightly, especially today. So if you're there, they want to hear what you have to say and they already believe in you. So, don't disappoint them.
Well, this is the classic Brene Brown thing, you deserve to be there. You're good enough, right?
Yeah.
It is. And they've already shown you that by hiring you, bringing you to the table. You are at the table. Now, what do you choose to do with that kind of gift? And again, I say this because this brings up so many thoughts here. it's not all our responsibility in a role, right? We need an environment that works for us, right? That works for us as human beings, who we are, the type of person we are. We need good environments and supportive organizations to help us up the way. The other side of that is we need to take responsibility for our part of that journey. And one of the things is this kind of distrust for our own thoughts, that we're our own abilities, and say, hey, pretty good. I got the job. I'm here in the job. I've been successful. Mostly imposter syndrome is people who are high achievers, right?
Yes.
They're high achievers. So think about that. Most people with imposter syndrome have been achieving.
Isn't that funny? That affects most people that are the higher achievers. It's just really ironic to me. So tell me more about, having the environment to be able to thrive in.
It really comes down to, we organizationally, HR folks work on this. We're talking good culture to work that's supportive. When you are looking around and you're kind of looking at your company, your current situation where you're working, one of the things you want to just assess is the environment, culture affecting me here? Like, is it we might have a toxic boss or something that's in the way. That's not you, that's them, right? And that might be impacting. So to use imposter syndrome to analyze this situation is unfair to the individual, because I think that it's something else at play. So make sure you look and you see, hey, what is at play? Now, when you're taking on a new role, when you're moving to a new company, when you're thinking about moving up in an organization, you want to think about, what is the culture I'm getting to? Because you might have left a really nice, I'm talking about internal mobility here. You move up and the person you're working for changes, and they have a reputation, or there's something, the culture in that department is a little different. Those are things you want to be aware of and make sure that you're walking into a supportive environment. It's not always easy to assess. That's the problem. But again, I like to think of this as just being, it's a two-way street. It's our part of this is supporting us, believing in ourselves, making sure we take an inventory of all the things that we do. My book of wins that I shared, you just keep the tabs of all the great things you've done over time, and as well as the weak points that you have. That's okay. Everybody has them. Make sure, and then look to the organization that you're working for with, that do they have the systems in place, the supports in place that can help you be the best that you can be. And if you're hitting your head against a wall, maybe that's time to move. That's where you come to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, coaching is a big part of it, and training, and making sure, like you said, people have the skill set, because a lot of times I work with people and they don't realize they actually are more empowered to be able to make suggestions. Because if you're talking to like the top of the pyramid, they can't see what's going on at every layer, right? They're really depending on all the different layers, from individual contributors to managers to middle management to their maybe lower level leaders, to give them that information. They can't possibly know what's going on every level. And so what I find is that people are reluctant to speak up because they're afraid it's not their place, right? Sort of with this imposter syndrome, like, oh, I'm not important enough to speak up. But when I start to tell them, these are some of the tools you can use, and these are the ways you can put information together, and make sure that you're using data and not just looking at it like a complaint, like this always happens and we never do anything about it. But it's like, hey, I've assessed the situation, I've assessed the risk involved in it, and I've put this together, and I really think the benefits of us doing this would be X, Y, and Z. I mean, it takes some strategy, it takes some thinking, but it gives you credibility. It gives you an empowered stance. Like, you have so much more power than you realize that you do, once you learn how to put it all together and speak in an empowered way. So we're not just victims of whatever is going on in the company. And sometimes there are things going on that are beyond our control, right? We have to think about what we can control and what we can't, but we have a lot that we can control.
And as we come into a role, as we begin, this is the awareness around us, like having self-awareness in this, I would suggest is one of the most important pieces of your career growth. Being aware of where you are at your journey and it's realistic, it's factual, it's based on evidence, and putting into place what you're talking about is a little bit of a stretch. Like it's that next step. You've got to be willing to stretch. Imposter syndrome, people don't volunteer for those stretch positions because they're afraid to make that move. So somehow we have to develop a strategy to get ourselves over the hump, and having the plans, doing your homework, doing your research, and my words, take your little baby steps, take some action to try it out, and know that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be without pain, because growth is, any kind of growth and change is pain. And there's some struggle involved. And we can just, I love what you just said there, because it's empowering, but we have to kind of get to that place where we say, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna have that really good conversation. I'm gonna create this structure, take ownership of it. Again, your side of the fence here, because that's what all we can do is we can take care of our side, and hope that we've been asking great questions to say with the people we want to work with or we are working with, that we can start to build those relationships so that we can do all the things you just mentioned.
Yeah. And that those are awesome points, right? And what are the steps that we can take that can make us feel more confident? And a lot of it's mindset, but a lot of it's action, taking action. Are you reading the trades in your industry? Are you on, the cutting edge of what's actually going on in your industry? Are you bringing information into the workplace that not everybody's reading the trades? I mean, that's a simple thing to do. And you come in with something that's going on. Like you said, do your research. If you want to be putting together some proposals, do you know how to put a proposal together? Like, we couldn't have more information available to us at no cost with the internet and the explosion that happened during the pandemic. Like, everybody was giving away everything for free. So if you want, it's so easy to be able to get what you need. And then look, not everybody's going to know how to put it together. You need the guides to help you put it all together, so that, again, you have the confidence that you're doing this correctly.
I had a client recently, and she's absolutely, a lot of the stuff we're talking about doesn't relate directly to her, but it's things she would be thinking about, confidence, self-doubt. The question I kept on asking her was, what do you need to do you think, to be up in a leadership realm? Like, what do you need to do? What's the work? What's the reading? What's the course you need to take? What's the relationships you need to have? Because it's easy to say, hey, I want to be in a leadership position. That's easy. Now, what do I need to do? There's a great book. It's quite a thick little book by Korn Ferry, the recruiters and the talent folks. They have a book called FYI. You can find it on Amazon. It's huge. But it basically walks all through all the pieces of what it takes to be a leader. And it's indexed, it's chapter. It costs $240, right? So or $200. It's like, whoa, am I going to spend $240? If you want to be a leader, or you want to think about it, you're going to take a course, right? So my point is, how important is this work for you? Do you want to grow? You're going to have to find those avenues, those relationships to build, the information to incorporate, and then start doing it. Now you're down to the baby steps again. You're going to want to start down here, do a little bit, even though you're adding some big parts up over a big picture. You're going to want to start to keep inching forward. Accepting the status quo could be the biggest kind of knee taking you out at the knees for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something really interesting too when you talked about people that want to be in a leadership position. I've had quite a few clients that feel very disgruntled because they're not getting the promotions that they wanted to get. And when we started to talk through it, they're spending a lot of energy feeling disgruntled or entitled. And then I take it one step further and I say, okay, so you're in that role. Now what? And that's when we kind of get to the imposter syndrome piece, because we get all tangled up in all the emotions that are down here with not getting the promotion that I want. And then all of a sudden we take that away and we go, okay, you have it. Now what? And that's when we realize together that there's mind work that needs to be done. There's a mind shift that needs to happen.
And one of the things they talk about is executive presence. I know we've conferred about this in the past, but executive presence is just how you show up. But it really is, it's all stems from a lot of the things we're talking about. It's confidence, is how your frame of mind is, what you bring, having huge self-awareness of and empathy for the other people that you're dealing with. And it is a big growth project if you're just starting in your career or you're trying to figure out where you are. Look into some of these things, look into them and investigate them and talk. Here we are as coaches and we're talking to each other saying, work with a coach, you get, and I mean that I work with a coach.
I do too.
We need, and I say, it just hold us accountable, challenge us a little bit, get us out there where we wouldn't normally go and maybe try something, and then question our beliefs, like talk about them and investigate those. What is really driving this behavior that is showing up where we're not going for that wonderful example you had there, not taking that because we believe that somebody else has it better than we do, when we haven't. I don't believe, and the client better, fully has determined everything and given a chance to actually get all the information to determine whether that was the right opportunity or not.
Yeah. And are we going to let the noisiest person in the room win? You know what I mean? Just because we're not as noisy doesn't mean we're not more qualified. Just because you're the loudest person in the room, and we have some examples, which I'm not going to get into politics, but the loudest person in the room doesn't mean they're always the most qualified. And
it's having a strategy to get past that. You don't have to be an extrovert to get promoted. You don't need to be like you say, the loudest, the fun life of the party to be that person. What you want to do is you want to have strategies to get you to the places your work noticed, your worth out there, your value shown. Your relationships are so key as you build. Relationships don't have to be sitting in front of the room giving amazing dynamic keynote speech. It could be one-on-one conversation just in the hall, right? But with purpose.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because as you were saying it, I was like, you could be in a meeting and you could say only one tiny little thing in the meeting, but if it adds value, everyone's going to remember what that one thing was that you said.
And remember, you have value, so you have a lot to say, and they want you to speak up. So that one word, we want you to put it on the table. How many times have you and I been at meetings where someone we haven't heard from a long time says one thing, and we go, oh, absolutely, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. This has been so great. I just love talking with you. I feel like every time we talk, I could talk for hours and hours and hours. I want to thank you so much. Barry brought up a great point. He and I both have coaches. I have had coaches since 2014, and I've known people in my career for a long time. People follow me for a long time. You see me growing and growing and growing. I never stop growing. I love the way it feels, but I need a guide. We need someone to point out our blind spots. So Barry's an awesome coach. If you want to talk to him more, learn more about him, maybe get a consultation with him, you can follow him on LinkedIn. Barry Forward. And he also has a podcast, Reboot Forward. So you can find that as well. And I just want to thank you so much. Any parting words before we wrap?
I mean, it sounds so simple and cliche almost. Just go for it. You know, we have so much self-doubt is a human trait. We're all out there doubting ourselves as we move forward in the world. And if only we could just look at, have someone look back at us and say, if you only knew how great you were, right? You would take those chances, learn those skills, apply for that job, because we are capable of doing just a little bit more and maybe a lot more than we already are. So that's my words. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. And also, I have a group coaching program called the Leadership Transformation League. It's once a month we meet. So in June, I am going to be doing a very deep dive into imposter syndrome as well. So I will just put the info in the comments below. And thanks to everyone on Facebook. And I want to thank you again, Barry. And we will see you all soon. We're going to sign off and we're going to go into the Leadership Lounge. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone on Facebook. Okay, and then I'm going to stop recording.